Welcome back, guys. In this video we are going to work on our database. For this app I'm going to use the Firebase. So in case if you don't know what Firebase is a Google database. It's an online database, but I believe it's more than a database because it's using one console. It gives you your storage module, it gives your authentication module, you can enable the social login in your app, and also if you're working on some advanced stuff, they also have even their machine learning library you can use using Firebase. Firebase also allows you to host your entire application. So by end of this whole series, I'm going to include a video which shows how you can deploy your app to the Firebase. So let's get it started. If you haven't signed up, go to the console. All it takes a Google ID, and I believe once you have a Google ID, it will let you use their free program. Okay. Second thing what we'll need is AngularFire 2. So AngularFire 2 is an Angular, I would say is a method which lets you connect your Angular to Firebase. The good thing is recently like till last week everybody was using AngularFire 2, but good thing is there's a new version of Angular Fire has been released. Actually, it's not a new version. The AngularFire 2, it becomes AngularFire 5, and now officially it's called AngularFire. So the good news is it's an stable version, and let's go to the AngularFire 2. And what Angular team is going to do, they are providing the long-term support to this library. So that's a very good thing. Now you can very safely use this thing. Okay. So when we are doing this, okay, let's get started on this one. All you need to do, you need to install two things: npm install Firebase and AngularFire. Before it was AngularFire 2, but that's all you need. Okay, you need two packages: Firebase and AngularFire 2. So I'm going to copy this command, and at the same time, let's go back to our app. Okay, while we're installing, then I can walk you through a couple of other things. As you can see, my app is already serving. But let me go quickly fix a couple of more things in my app, because in my app I know there was no way I didn't include the login component to my routing module. So let's quickly do that. Okay, so I'm going to import that login component. Okay, and then I'm going to create a new path. I'm going to call it a copy paste login path, and then by default I want that my first page when the application loads right now is at about us. I want that to be login page. So I'm going to change this to login, change this to login. That's it. Save. Okay, save now. Next thing is, as you can see, the mat. This thing is looking little hideous. So let's go fix this thing. Okay, and I know. So because last time we did a lot of copy paste, so sometimes it happens the things are not working as they are expected to do that. Okay, so let's go to the Angular material.io. Go to get it started, components, and mat chips. So let's go chips, examples. So this is the actual example we copy pasted, and I think I know what the problem is. I forgot to copy the CSS piece. So I'm going to copy this, go to my login page. Okay, login.component.cs. Let me paste this, save. So hopefully that will take care of those long mat chips what it was appearing. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Okay, now let's go and install those components here. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my command prompt window. Okay, make just one more time. I want to make sure. Okay, we are installing Firebase and AngularFire. Okay, so let's go back here, Control C. Okay, I'm going to copy paste this command which says npm install. Oops. So maybe it didn't copy it properly. Copy npm install Firebase and AngularFire 2. Perfect. Okay, so while it's doing the installation, let me quickly go to that GitHub repository and show you two more things what you will need. Okay, so next thing is Firebase Cancel. So as I was saying, it allows you to create more than one component. So you can just add a new project. I already have one project. So this is the dummy project I use for all my development purpose. So I'm going to click on this one, and I'll tell you more about the Firebase once we get along, once we start working on the advanced stuff. Okay. Right now what I need here, once you see this icon, you need to go to this web icon here, okay, and it will give you this script where config equals to this. All you need to do, copy paste this thing, and I'll tell you exactly. You need to copy this, okay, and so while it's doing the installation, let's go back to the AngularFire 2, and you can find all of this instruction on here, okay. So basically that's what it is. So let's go to the installation and setup, okay. Here it says, because we don't need to do this thing, we already have Angular CLI, we already have a live project because we are adding to it already a new project. All of these things you don't need to do. Step number 3, this is just what I did. Now what you need to do, you need to include this environment variable, okay, to your environment.ts file. So let's go and open your environments files here, environment.ts. As you can see, I already have everything else here. All I need this Firebase string here. So I'm going to copy this, okay, paste it here, and let's put a comma. That's it. And now all of these settings, API key, auth domain, database URL. Now let's go back to your Firebase account. See these things? All you need to do, copy this, paste it here. That's it. Okay. So perfect, that's it. So all I need to, and again the same thing, please do not forget to include this to your environment.prod.ts file as well. Okay, perfect. Okay, now it looks good. So let's go back to this one, AngularFire 2. So as you can see, step number 4 we have already done that. Now step number 5. Okay, now step number 5 is showing you that how to like import this one, but I think I'm going to skip to this one. I need all of this module. I need at least these 4 modules: AngularFire, AngularFire Store, AngularFire Storage, and AngularFire Auth, because I know that I'm using all of these things. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this 5. I said 4, but actually the 5th one is the environment, so I'm going to copy this. Okay, so let's go back to our app, go to app.module.ts, and here let's import this. I'm going to say Firebase settings, copy paste, perfect. Okay, next thing is you have to 1 2 3 4, okay, you have to include this import to your imports array. Okay, now let's go back to your imports array, comma, include this one. You might be wondering what the 5th one is doing. So 5th one is actually the environment. So remember that environment settings you just wrote, that Firebase settings, that's how it's going to make the connection. Okay, so environment is just is helping you connect to that one. Okay, now environment will be used here. So it will say AngularFire module dot initialize app, and is going to pass that Firebase variable from the environment file here. Now one thing, you have to give it a nice name. Okay, so in my case, I am calling it like online store. Oops, online store. I think that's pretty much it. That's all it. See, that's how easy it is to, make all the configuration and connect to your Firebase. I think that's pretty much it. We are done with this one. Okay. Next thing is we just need to start working our modules. Okay. So first page, I'm going to work on our login page. Okay. Okay, so before we start working on our login component.ts file, let's do some configuration settings. So head out to your Firebase console, pick the project you are going to use for your authentication, and once your project opens, you need to go to your authentication tab. Now in this authentication, so suppose in your app, in my example, I want to include an authentication method using email and password. Another method is using Facebook, another method is using Google. So go back here, go to your authentication, sign in methods, and here as you can see, Firebase gives you a lot of default methods which you can use at your social auth login. I'm going to use email password, Facebook, and Google. So all you need to do, go pick this out and enable it. That's it. Second thing you need to do, on your Google, click on this one, enable this one. Okay. Now Facebook is little bit different. If you want to enable the Facebook login, it also needs, it expects an app ID and app secret ID. So I have a separate tutorial on this, how to implement like social login in your Cardova app. I'm going to include the link to that, but that's a totally different topic. I don't want to cover this one because that's again an hour-long session. But for now, all you need to do, enable these three. Okay, one more thing you have to do, please do not forget that. So you have to choose an authorized domain. So you have to click on that add domain. Now if you're using your development server, so your development is again is localhost 4200, and suppose you know that you are going to deploy your app to for example some website. So you have to elishaeducation.com, alivetracking.com, you have to include that domain as well. Otherwise it's not going to authenticate. So again, just to recap, Firebase expects you to enable all of these logins, and then it expects you to add that domain here. Otherwise it's not going to work. So please do not forget that. Once you have these two settings ready, now let's go back to our GitHub for AngularFire 2. Okay, as you can see, I'm going to browse through their guide, and I'm going to pick this topic. It says getting started with Firebase authentication. Okay, I'm going to follow this guide step by step. Everything is documented there, but I'm going to do a little bit different, and you will see why. So as you can see, they imported the two AngularFire Auth and Angular Auth Firebase from there, and they implemented two methods, login and logout, and they are using this sign up with pop-up method. Now this method absolutely works fine, no problem with all. But let me tell you one thing from my experience. If you ever want to use your code to deploy it on iOS or Android mobile phone, it's not going to work. And this is the reason they have set up their own method. It's called Cardova. Again, I mentioned I'm going to include that link. This is totally different topic. This sign in with pop method unfortunately is not going to work. So if you are planning ahead, and if you are thinking that I want to use make a mobile app of my development app, then follow this method. Otherwise this method is totally safe. Even if you are not planning to make it a mobile app, is going to work even then. Okay, so I'm going to choose this method. So first let's go back, and as you can see there are two different methods, login and logout. So first let's do this one, and then we are going to go back and deal with this. Okay, so let's go back to our code. Let's log into your login.component.html. Again, as you can see, I have little bit more problems here. Let me fix those little bit. Okay, so for example, I have error here, but I actually in all my app I use error message. Very simple. So I'm just going to put error message here. Second thing, what I want to fix, see that is giving me an error. I attribute a color, so I'm just going to say color equals to primary. That's it. Very simple thing. Okay, what else I can do here? Okay, now here I do not have once the user is already logged in, so I do not have a logout button. So I'm going to create a button and I'm going to call it a logout, and I'm going to call a method, say on click equals to, I'm going to call a function here logout. Simple. Okay, and then actually I was using mat progress spinner. I'm going to use mat progress bar. Very simple. Okay, it's not a big deal here. Okay, now let me save this. That's all from the login.component.html. Again, I created a new method logout here. Okay, and I fixed this error message. Data loading again is an integral part of my development, and you will see why. Okay, now let's go back and start working on our login component.ts. As you can see, I already have a method called login, and I do not have a logout method. So let's just quickly start working on this one. But before we do that, first step is I want to create couple of variables here. So error message, and data loading. So again, error, these two are just to display in case your app has an error, and data loading is to show that mat progress bar, that is spinner, what I was talking about. Okay. Next thing is I'm going to import my service, backend service, because I'm going to write entire logic on the backend service. Now let me create a private variable on my constructor backend service here, and I'm going to then I'm going to call this method. Okay, next thing is I think I need I'm going to get rid of all this code. I don't need this console.log. I'm going to create one more method called logout. Okay, and then I'm going to comment this out. User logged in. I'm going to create a new function. It's called get auth status. So what this function is going to do, instead of like right now is hard coded that user logged in equals to false, but actually it should come from the server. So I'm going to comment this out, and I'm going to call this method on my ng on it. So that's pretty much it, I believe. Okay. Next thing is, let's go to our backend service and start creating these three different methods. So in the backend service, so all of these things, so far what I've written, everything was fake. Now it is now it's time to start writing the actual code. So first thing, I'm going to comment this out. I'm saying all the, the functions I have written so far, these are fake. So I'm going to, when the app is finished, I'm going to delete everything from this point. Okay. Now here, let's go back and first of all, I need to, import couple of things. Sorry. Okay. Now let me import two things, AngularFire auth and import auth. As you can see, this is, I'm just following their guide here. Okay, but I will be doing a little bit different. So, but right now I'm importing these two, auth from the Firebase and AngularFire auth from the AngularFire. Okay, perfect. Next thing is, I need to declare this instead of, usually I always declare everything as a private variable. This is the exception. Why? Because AF auth is going to provide the auth state, authentication state of my user. So I'm just going to declare it as a public here. Okay, perfect. Now let's start creating methods. Say login method, logout method. So what I did here, I just copy pasted this. Okay, sorry, I didn't do anything else. So I'm just like login, logout. That's all I did. I copy pasted here. Okay, so logout is going to remain the same. But login, as I said, because I'm not going to work with this one. I know that this doesn't work in the mobile application. So instead, I'm going to follow this. Okay. Now it's time to go to this link. Okay. So again, there are too many things out there. I have a separate. I keep on saying I have a separate tutorial on this one, where you have to set up your Cordova project, like things like that. So you have to install all this in your the Cordova plugins, your universal plugins. You have to update all your dynamic links, but that's a totally separate topic. Okay, in your app, what you need to do? Let's come to these things: number 2, number 3, and number 4. That's all you need to do. So let's deal with this. So you have to create a provider, and then you have to use this method. Instead of using the sign in with pop-up method, you have to use this method. It's called signing with redirect. That's exactly what I'm going to do. So let me copy this out. Let me create another method called isUser logged in, because remember I have that method called get auth status. All I'm going to do, return this .af.auth state. Okay, perfect. Now here, our login method from login.component.ts, if you remember, I'm passing two things, filter and form data. What is actually filter? Filter is the type of login type. It is a Facebook or let's go quickly look at this one. So if you look at this, once I click on this login, I'm saying Google. If I click on this Facebook button, it says FB. This is what the filter is. Maybe I should have named it appropriately. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to call it a login type and form data. Form data is optional. Only if the user fills in using this method, click on the login, then the form data is present, otherwise it's not. Okay, so now form data, I'm just going to fix this and I'm going to comment this out. Instead, I'm going to use, say, if form data is present, just use this sign in with email and password. Very simple method. I'm saying if form data is there, use this method af.auth.sign in with email with password. If not, actually, then I have to use this sign in with redirect. Okay, so now let's go, if the form data else, so let's say else, I'm going to say a login method. Now if the login method, if the login type equals to Facebook, then login method equals to Facebook auth provider. So here, as you can see, there are two different things, Google auth provider or Facebook auth provider. I'm just saying depending on the login type, if it is Facebook, then use the Facebook auth provider. If it is Google, then use the Google auth provider. And then you just call this function af.auth.sign in with redirect. That is exactly what I'm doing. af.auth.signing with redirect. And I'm passing the login method here. Okay. So very simple method. Now you might have noticed I'm not calling this then function and everything. Why? Because I have written all of these things on my service. So I'm going to call the rest of the functions, then all of I'm going to get the result or credential is on the login page itself. So this is the service, and I have to I will write the rest of the logic on the login.component.ts. So as you can see, I still have an error. It says okay, because I haven't imported the Firebase. So let's go import the Firebase. So I'm going to say import status Firebase from the, see, the error is gone now. First I just missed a semicolon. So I think that's pretty much it, right? Yeah, now my this looks pretty good. Okay, now let's go to, again, I'm writing only half functions here. Half functions means I'm not like, then I'm not using the promise in the backend service. Promise I'm going to use on the login.component.ts. So let's go to login.component.ts. Now it is time to write this login function. Okay, first write the logout. So all I'm going to say when the user click on the logout, just to say this dot data loading equals to true. That means like it will show the spinner, the icon, the progress bar of what I was talking about. Okay, then you just say return this dot backend service and call that logout method dot then, and I'm going to say if it is a success, then user logged in equals to false and data loading equals to false. So why it is giving me an error? Oh, okay. Why? Because here logout method I'm not returning anything. So sorry, I have to write one more function, a redirect login, and I'll come back to this in 1 minute. Here all I need to include the return word here. That's it. Okay. So once I click on the return, and I think I have to return one more thing. That's pretty much it. Okay. Now it should go away. So because it was not returning anything, that's why it didn't recognize. Okay. That's all in the logout method. All is doing logout, and what logout is going to do? Logout is going to say this dot afr dot sign out. That's pretty much it. Okay. Now let's go work on our login. So again, this dot data loading equals to true. I'm going to say return this dot backend service dot login. I'm going to pass maybe let me fix this login type. So this is actually login type, and then you say I'm going to just do a catch. Okay, so I'm going to call this function, and I'm going to pass the, I'm going to fix this 1 minute. Okay, login type, that means it is a Google or Facebook or email, and pass the form data, and then do the catch. So in the catch, as you can see, is very simple. I'm just catching the error. I'm not doing anything. If the error equals to true, get the message, and I'm also console logging this one. And then you just turn the spinner off, and user logged in equals to false. That's it. Okay, let me now let's go back to this get auth status. Okay, so same thing, get auth, this dot data loading equals to true. Next thing is I'm going to call this function backend service dot redirect login. Now what is a redirect login function? Okay, sorry, I should have covered that. So this part is over. So what happens when the user click on the sign in button, it goes to the for Google authentication. When it comes back, it says okay, get me the redirect results. Okay, that's what it is. Okay, and it will make more sense once you see this. Okay, so I'm going to call this function redirect login, and then it's the same then method. Just say result. If the result is there, result dot action equals to this one. Perfect. And I'm going to call a catch method again. Same copy paste. Okay. Now I have one error here. Okay, let me just turn the spinner off one more time, and then okay, let me, so okay, now this will take care of that. I think that's pretty much it. Perfect. So what's happening here, when you click on the login, I'm just going to cover the flow one more time. When the user clicks on the login, if it is a user ID or password, okay, so what it does, it says login type is email, and I'm passing the form value here, form data dot value here. Okay, now if it is a Facebook login, all I'm saying Facebook. If it is a Google login, I am saying Google. Okay, that's it. It goes to the login.component.ts file. It says login. What is my login type? And whatever it is, it takes the login type and form data. It calls this method. Everything else you can see, this is just to catch the error. Okay. Now, if the user is already logged in, is going to click on the logout. That's it. I will get back to this get auth status in 1 minute. Okay. So now let's go back to this one. Here, login method. If the login type equals to email, that means form data is present, then use this method. If it's not email, then use the Facebook or Google. Pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Simple. Redirect login is, so let me probably, just me show you this in action. So here I'm going to say use this, and I'm going to put some junk password here. Click on login. See that? So it came back with the error. Okay. I intentionally, and you can see this is I'm logging. It's saying the password is wrong. So it just get the bad password here and comes back here. Now let me try the social login. Login with Google. See, it's going to the separate page. So when I click on this one, it's going to get to the Google and it's get the authentication. But you know, your page is lost. If you notice these things, it's not your page anymore. It's not your localhost 4200. So when it comes back, so suppose I click on this one, it will come back and reload this page. That means your login.component.ts file, and then it doesn't know which method to go. That's why I'm calling that this.get.auth status at the beginning, ng on init. And then what it does, all that function does, it uses this function called redirect login. That's what their documentation is saying, to handle the case where the app activity is destroyed before the sign-in operation completes. So let's go back. Choose one of the methods. It should go back and it says, okay, it is done now. So that means it's able to authenticate. But I'm not actually, so let's go back what I did. Login to get auth status. Here what I'm doing, I'm console logging the result.credential. So I'm saying, okay, whatever the result you got from the Google authentication, all you need to do, display that here. Okay. Just wait for it. Okay, it came back. Okay, perfect. You see, it came back with the actual token. Beautiful. So it's saying, okay, this is your authentication token. So that's pretty much it. So now all I want to do here, I'm saying, okay, here maybe I should have done is saying, okay, if result dot credential dot accent token is not equals to blank, that means my user is logged in. Beautiful. So all you need to do, actually it's an object, so it's a property. Okay. So I'm saying, okay, get this property. If it is not equals to blank, you know, just like, you know, say my user had logged in.